development skills going in incubation center at IIT Patna. So platform is for you, Joseph sir. You can continue.
Thank you. Thank you. And good morning to all of you. It is my pleasure to spend an hour with you today. So during this 1 hour, we will I will generally talk about entrepreneurship, the opportunities that we have in ESTM sector, and as I understand, quite a few of the participants are students. I would also take a bit of time to encourage you to consider entrepreneurship as a career option. And we will go through some of the basic steps of creating a hardware product-based organization. And towards the end, I will also take a bit of time to explain how we work with our companies and what kind of facilities that we offer to our companies. So that is about the overall outline of the overall outline of my session today. I'm getting muted by the host.
Okay, let me check once more, sir.
Yeah, so I would like to give a brief introduction about myself. My name is Joseph. I work with the Incubation Center IIT Patna as the manager of the center, and I'm responsible for the day-to-day operations of the center and supporting the companies. I'm from an engineering background. Electrical and electronics engineering is my qualification. And subsequently, I've been working with IT and IT-enabled services industry for about 16 years before I joined Incubation Center. And I've been here since 2016, ever since the center started functional operations. So I have been part of the industry for about 20 years. And some of the things that I'm going to share today is based on the industry experience that I have acquired, and also what we have experienced with our companies here in Incubation Center IIT Patna. So Incubation Center IIT Patna has been established about 5 years ago, and it started its active operations since 2016 mid. And we have so far supported around 40 companies, and all of them are in the electronic systems. So we have worked with a lot of companies, but we have activities over the last 4 years. We have been established with the support of Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, and Government of Bihar, the Information Technology Department, and IIT Patna. So 3 parties collaborated to set us up. Let's get going with the presentation. So if you look at it, over the last 3-4 decades, we see that the career options have been evolving in every decade. So in 1980s, when we look at it, government employment was the primary source of our income or employment opportunity. As we moved to 1990s, manufacturing picked up. We have seen a lot of automobile companies coming up, a lot of car brands setting up their factories here. There are engineering sector have seen a significant forward movement in the 90s. And people with technical skills like diplomas and engineering started to become in high demand. And in 2000s, if we look at it, technology and technology services, like primarily software industry, information and communication technology industry, has boomed. We saw a great software movement that picked up in India, and uh, which led to the outcome that India became one of the largest exporters of services in software industry, and we are world leaders in that area. And in the 2010s, after a decade of these software becoming a success story, um, after a decade, we see that the momentum is switching, and this time this is entrepreneurship basically. So we see a lot of companies coming up, like Ola and a lot of other companies, a lot of online service aggregation companies, um, like Flipkarts, and a lot of other Indian companies have started picking up. So they were all riding the wave of the technology, the advancements that India has made in technology and technology enabled services. So these platforms were business applications or industrial applications that made use of technology as one of the core enablers for their business. So they identified new ways of doing business, and they used or leveraged technology to accomplish the results that they wanted. And we have seen large unicorns coming out of this process, and we have been hugely successful. And couple of the areas that has been hugely impacted, if you look at it, where retail markets and service aggregation like Ola and Swiggy and Zomato and stuff like that, where service providers can make use of their platform to connect with the customers. And we also saw quite a bit of changes in the financial aspects in the financial technology. And we see the payments, the banking changing from traditional passbooks and visits to the bank branches to internet banking, and subsequently mobile banking, and whatnot, Paytms and all those kinds of things. So there has been every subsequent shift in the opportunities was based on technology and its application to solving the problems, and all these shifts has created employment and forward movement of the overall economy. If you look at it, this is a slightly older picture. This is a picture from 2017. Technology-driven product startups were the key drivers for the economy of any nation. If you look at it, at that point of time, United States had got about 50 to 55,000 product-based technology companies. And United Kingdom was in place too, with around 5,000 companies, which is 1/10 of what the US had. And India was closely behind, thanks to the Make in India, Digital India initiatives, which the government has taken. So we were just closely behind at 4,700 to around 5,000 startups. And Israel was just behind us with around 4,500 to 5,000 startups. But India has grown far beyond this number over the last 2 years. And we have overtaken United Kingdom also, and in number-wise, Israel also. But we are not yet there with the United States. What we can see is that where these kinds of companies are, you take the case of United States, you take the case of Israel, where there are technology-based companies leveraging technology to resolve some of the major issues or problems of the society. They not only grow but also drive the economy of the country. They create employment, jobs. They create GDP, and they significantly progress. So this is a reality, and I am of firm belief that government has taken the right steps with respect to promoting the startup ecosystem, and government has not only invested a lot of money into it, They have also created policies. They have tried to make it easier for the companies. They have started creating infrastructure facilities like incubation centers and accelerators. They have created schemes for the whole spectrum of startup activity, starting from exploration to rapid scaling in the market. So government has done its bit in enabling the system. Now, it is up to us to make use of that opportunities and see how we can convert some of the opportunity, some of the issues in front of us as a business, commercially viable business opportunity. So in that respect, we should think about entrepreneurship as a career option, serious career option. Traditionally, we have been after government jobs because we feel that that is the most secure of all the jobs, and you don't have to worry about your salaries. You have a routine style of work, so that is all good. But as we said, government cannot provide jobs for everybody. So it is up to us, especially the people from technical backgrounds, to find out if you are able to create something new. If you have been able to, if you are able to create something new in any field, then you should try to do it. Instead of being a job taker, try to be a job giver. Yes, there are risks associated with it, but the environment has improved to such an extent that these risks are not any more future threatening. So you can take a risk and you can fail, and you still have avenues to get back into your normal life if you're failing. So that is what the condition is. So it is my uh, uh, I think I'm getting muted again and again. I request the host to take a look at it. Uh, so basically, it is. I would like to encourage all of you to consider this. It is not everybody's cup, I agree. But if you have an idea, if you have the technical skills to look at a product or to look at a solution to a particular problem, then I would definitely encourage that you take a look at it. There are lots of avenues to get support, which I will explain a little later. So entrepreneurship is actually fail safe because at this time, given the circumstances in my mind, it is a win-win situation only. Either we will succeed in our attempt to run a company, or we will fail, but we will come out as a skilled person, because the skill requirements, the commitment requirements in an entrepreneurial environment is significantly great, and it is very hard for people to come out without any additional learning. If you work with a startup company in a very short span of time, you will learn a lot of things. You will learn commercial operations, you will learn how to manage your funds, you will learn what is the importance of generating a profit. You will learn how to design a product. You will learn where to get it manufactured. You will learn where you can go wrong with respect to product design and component selection. So you pick up so many so many items or knowledge in a very short span of time, which makes you actually a much better employee than others when you join a company. If you're failing as a startup, and if you're joining any other company, you will be at least 2-3 years ahead of your peers with respect to your understanding levels, which every company look forwards to. So in that sense, attempting to start up is not as risky as it was before. And the government is also encouraging people to try, even if they fail. Government is also providing avenues for them to get back into the mainstream without much of a damage. So, what is incubation, and what is its role in entrepreneurship? Um, Incubation is basically a term which is used in poultry and used in hospitals also. In poultry, it talks about it's about hatching an egg. You keep the egg in a very protective environment where it can develop and it can hatch. And in the case of hospitals, it refers to egg baby, premature baby being born. kept in a very secure environment so that the baby gains enough strength to face the world and survive on its own. So basically, the concept of incubation in entrepreneurship is also coming out of these areas only. The possibility of anybody attempting to start their own company failing is very significant without external support systems, especially people without business background. If they attempt to start a business, chances of failure is very high because there are so many areas which they are not aware of, and it is very possible that they die. So in the initial years, in the initial couple of years, 2 to 3 years of time is crucial for any startup company, because that is the time when they have no revenues, when they have no fallback systems, when they have less experience. The possibility of the company going out of business is very high in the initial few years. Once people pick up the necessary skills, once they start understanding the system, they will find a way to survive, and they will survive in the market. So the concept of incubation is also for that only. The primary purpose of an incubation is to support companies who are attempting this in the initial phases. So they will need. So I'll come to that a little later. We'll just take a look, since we are looking at electronic systems primarily, IoT based systems, robotics, and other electronic systems. Let's just take a quick look at the rough product life cycle. This is from a site I have taken. So we have an idea, then we take that idea and do a market research on it. We try to understand whether we convert this idea into a product. Is there a possibility that we can commercialize this in the market? Can we find a customer for this? Can we make some money out of it? So they do a market research, and if they think that it can be done, then a concept and a project, a detailed plan is being prepared as of how we will develop the product, how will we find the market, how will we launch it in the market, how will we produce it. And then if there is any intellectual property coming out of it, then we will try to create a patent so that our invention is protected for a period of time from competition. And we will have unique and solitary access to that particular IP. And then when we have that, then we do a product design. We have to design the product. We know the technology, but we need to make it into a product. Technology and product are different. Technology is is the core element that solves the problem. But at the same time, product is what people use. People don't worry too much about technology. They usually look at a product and say that, yeah, this product is suitable for me because it is solving my problem, without bothering much about the technology that goes inside it. So people will have to sit down and design a product which the customers will like. Then you have to do the engineering. You have to actually make it, prototype it, try to see whether it is working or not, iterate it, optimize its shape and size, make it user friendly, etc. And then you come to a minimum viable product. You have a product which can be sold, which is basic issues are resolved, user access, usability aspects are taken care of, production aspects are taken care of, cost has been optimized. So you come to a stage where you will say that, okay, this product is more or less final, which I can take it to the market. And then you go for branding and packaging. And then finally, you find a production facility. And then you start your advertising, and then you start selling. And then you get into the cycle of production, sales, maybe new product development, iterations, new versions of the product, etc. So basically, at this time, you can see a circle in the screen. So from idea to prototyping, for anybody who is trying to involve with you, either a customer or an investor has nothing to see. They can hear the idea from you. They can see some diagrams. They might see some early prototypes, but they have nothing solid in their hands to feel, look, and understand, which will help them to invest in you, or buy from you, or partner with you to do something about it. So So this is the most vulnerable phase for any startup company. And usually companies fail here because they don't understand product design properly. They understand technology. They think that if I take an Arduino board and if I put all the components together and if I put a couple of LEDs and switches here and there, my product is ready. No, that product cannot be sold because its cost basis will be so high. Its maintenance will be very weak. Its design will be not optimized. So you cannot scale it. You cannot produce that in larger quality. So people make such assumptions and they go to the market and they fail. There is very few people who actually take the pain to get into the market and try to talk to some customers, understand their requirements, and then correspondingly optimize their product. So they assume that their idea is unique and their idea is the best and there is nothing better than that, and they go ahead and then they fail. So this issue is there. So they are very vulnerable at the stage, and the primary scope or purpose of the incubation center is to help companies in this phase, to guide them to understand the market, understand the technology, understand the product a bit better, so that they will come out with something which is much more viable, rather than just sticking to their initial thoughts about the product as the final. They have to evolve. They have to learn and they have to evolve, and they have to come out with something which is useful. So once you have the minimum viable product in your hand or a very good prototype in your hand, then you can approach your investors. You can go to them, you can talk to them, you can show them. They have more confidence in your technical capability. They have more confidence in the ability of you and your company to sell it. So they will engage with you and they will be willing to invest and they will be willing to take your business forward also. So this is where we step in and this is where we support. And for hardware companies, this journey is difficult. For software companies, if you have a PC and the basic platforms, then you can start developing. But in hardware companies, this requires equipments, very costly advanced software, etc. to do it. So it becomes a challenge for hardware companies to survive this period without a lot of resources. So one of the objectives of incubation is also to provide those resources to them so that they are able to manage it. So we are going forward. So what if you're a person or a company who has a very good idea, which has got a unique innovative component in it, which solves some of the major issues of the community that we are in. So how do we go about starting? So basically, to start it, we have to have some place from which we can work. It can be your garage, it can be your home, your bedroom also. We need laboratories, especially when it comes to electronic systems. Then electronic systems requires labs to prototype. You need design softwares to design it, simulation softwares to simulate it, some machinery to create the PCB prototypes, assemble it, solder it, test it. So you need equipments, and most of these equipments are quite costly. Then you need somebody to help you. Somebody who has already walked this road, who will be willing to help you with their experience of failures and their experience of success also. What has worked for them, what has not worked for them, what might work for you, what might not work for you, where you should look. You may not be paying attention to a particular area which might be of much use to you. So they can, from their experience, guide you. So mentoring is very essential for you, and definitely funds. And all this is done within the premises of a company. So a company registration has to happen, compliances has to be taken care of. So you will also need some support from CA firms, lawyer firms, etc. to do your work. So you have an idea, you convert that into a minimum viable product, then you develop the product, and then you test, tweak, launch it into the market, and you will need all these things to do that. So we are one of the first government-funded incubators in the country to be specifically focused on ESDM with a medical electronics focus. So we started as a medical electronics incubator in 2016. And since our facilities are very much suitable for electronics, any electronic system development, we have subsequently expanded our focus to all electronic systems. but we only used to cater in the first 2 years of our existence. We only catered medical electronics companies, medical devices companies. But after that, we also started onboarding electronic system-based companies from other sectors like IoT and robotics and educational robotics and stuff like that. So we are located in IIT Patna campus in Patna. Uh, uh, and we are supported by, as I told in the beginning, Department of Science and Technology, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology of Government of Bihar. And we are, IIT Patna has been quite focused on supporting startup companies from the beginning. That's how this project came up. It was IIT Patna's idea. So we proposed to Government of India and Government of Bihar, and then they stepped in and supported. So we are creating a 30,000 square feet dedicated facility for incubation center in IIT Patna, which is primarily focused on electronic systems and information and communication technology. So before we go further, I also just want to talk to you about a little bit on what is going on at this moment. So India has been typically a software-oriented country. We have our entrepreneurial activities were mostly oriented towards software and software-based businesses. We have been traditionally quite behind the world in terms of hardware-based businesses. And we were very much dependent upon China, and we all know that anything and everything that we see as an electronic piece in our hands used to be from China. And China was ruling the world with respect to electronic systems, and they were the manufacturing hub of everything electronics for the entire world. And for higher end devices like and devices with a lot of intellectual property, US and Germany were the leading countries, and then Japan. These three countries were the leading countries, and the government has actually started realizing that it is a huge dependency. Anything that is critical to our country, and in today's world, there is nothing works without electronics in it. Everything, starting from your kitchen appliances to your space mission, everything requires hardware. Everything requires an electronic element to it, which controls, which monitors, controls, does everything. So without we eliminating the dependency on external parties for intellectual property on electronic systems, the country would be hugely dependent upon these countries, and it is a risk. So government has really understood this, and they have started this Make in India campaign, and they started the Digital India push also. And they have tried to create facilities where electronic systems can be promoted. And along with incubation center IIT Patna, they have also established two other centers. One is in Kochi, and another one is in Delhi. They have created three centers which are specifically focused on hardware. And while we were focused on medical electronics, the Delhi wala was focused on industrial automation, and the Kochi center was focused on consumer electronics. But subsequently, everybody has expanded their focus to all electronic systems, because it is the same basic facility that you require to create any of that. So now everybody does everything. But India government has made a huge push towards hardware-oriented companies at that time. And now two interesting developments has happened. One, the IoT has started becoming an everyday word. Everything and anything that you can think of as an IoT element at this time. And the smart city has got a big push from the government. So this smart city requires a lot of internet-based and technology-based, hardware-based connectivity. That has become another major factor that is pushing. And at the end of it, we also saw coronavirus. Coronavirus is a pandemic. It has taken the life of so many people, and it is definitely not the desired conditions of most desired environment to be in. But at the same time, this has also opened a lot of doors for Indian companies to thrive in the market. It is a blessing in disguise for the businesses. There is a short-term impact on the businesses, but on the hardware side, the world is now considering India as an alternative to China, because people have issues with China with respect to the origin and spread of coronavirus. People have also become issues with China as China started exercising their power because of the other countries' dependence on them for manufacturing. So they have quite a bit of say in all these things. So, and some of the countries were not liking that as well. So in that sense, the environment has tilted hugely in favor of India as an alternative to China. And what it means to us, it means to us that the opportunities in the hardware sector and the hardware enabled solutions sector in a big way, in a very, very big way. Opportunities are going to abound in the next 4 to 5 years. The opportunities are going to abound. Anything and everything we were dependent on China. Now, for everything and anything, we need to create an alternative here, which creates a huge window of opportunity for technology enthusiasts, entrepreneurs who are focused on hardware solutions to start. So, given the environment and given the increased demand for the know-how in IoT and emerging sectors, not only IoT, it is IoT, mechatronics, robotics, industrial automation, smart cities, communication, even in education. We are seeing a huge disruption in the education sector. So we have to come out with solutions that will help us to resolve these kind of disruptions in the education sector as well. So healthcare has got a huge application. In fact, a couple of our companies, I'll talk about them a little later. They are creating very smart solutions which will help promote some of these things in our environment. So there is quite a large window of opportunity. So where are those opportunities? I would say that there are three areas which has 3 to 4 areas which has got huge potential for us to exploit. One is in the agricultural field. We have been traditionally doing agriculture. We have been doing agriculture in a very traditional manner. So after the food revolution that we had, which made India self-sufficient with respect to food production, we have not innovated a lot. We have worked on productivity, we have worked on yield, etc. But there has been very little effort to use technology as an enabler for agricultural sector. And agricultural sector is one of the largest contributors of our economy, and it is also backbone of our country. So many people are dependent upon that as a means of income generation. So there are huge potential potential for device-based, hardware-based companies in agriculture. There is huge potential in healthcare. We are importing more than 80% of all healthcare devices from other countries, and we are dependent upon other countries above 90% for some of the high-end diagnostics and all that, like MRI machines and stuff like that. We are 90+% dependent upon external sources. So there is a huge need to create import substitution products. It's not necessarily 100% new innovation. It's need not be sometimes 100% new product which has never been in the market before. Nobody has heard about it. It can be a simple device which we are currently importing from other countries. If we can make that at the similar cost price and in a better quality in India, then there is nothing like it. That itself is a huge boost to the environment. So healthcare is another sector where there are huge opportunities. It is slightly more complicated. Healthcare is slightly more complicated than other electronic product-based solutions, because healthcare requires more regulatory compliances. So it is a longer and harder journey, but it is a very, very rewarding journey also in that sense, because once you pick up the market, healthcare gives you the maximum margins. All consumer products are under severe margin pressure, but healthcare, you have a significant margin and you can make a decent profit out of healthcare systems. The third one is the third area where there is quite a bit of change which is going to happen in our country is on automation. We have a surplus manpower, so we have never been too worried about automation. We have always been relying on the muscle power more, so to speak. But the scenario will slowly change, because we also we can employ more people, but the technology systems or the machines that we are employing, the factories has to be more efficient, so that we can compete in the global market also. So automation at all levels, not only in home automation. We hear a lot about home automation of smart fans and smart ACs, where you use your mobile to switch on them, switch on them and switch off them. But that is only a small part of it. No, the major part of automation and a more profitable part of automation probably will be in industrial sector, the industry 4, the connected factory, connected machines, machines communicating with each other, machines monitoring themselves, machine diagnosing their own failure and then alerting the people. Systems that will eliminate human errors from in maintenances. So there are quite a huge application of industrial automation systems, and India is slowly India is coming to that stage. So there will be quite a lot of requirements from that stage also, which you can explore, which you can find out. And if it becomes successful, your company also will grow very quickly, because they're industrial customers. They will be paying good money, and you will have to deal with lesser number of clients also. Your orders will be larger. So which are ideal conditions for a startup company. It's not very easy. You have to produce really good quality stuff, and you should be able to convince them on a value proposition which will make them buy your product. But at the same time, opportunities are huge in that area also. The other one is smart city. So smart city is a very undefined term in my opinion. There are different perceptions about smart cities, but one thing is very clear. No, the city has to be, if the city has to be smart, it has to be enabled digitally. It has to be a seamless system which connects multiple aspects of governance and human life in a city, like transportation, water management, education, healthcare delivery, law and order, the pollution control, the facilities management. So there are, when we are starting the smart city push, and it might be a few years away. But we have to start putting the systems in place, which will help us in all these things. So there is a lot of scope for research also, in the sense, we can devise, we can create possible options, and doing that, we will be able to create and propose new innovations as of how things can be done. Because and one particular and unique opportunity that we have in smart city is that uh, smart city concept is there in the West, but their environment and our environment are very different. So a healthcare system, an MRI scanning machine, which is used in the West, can be directly be used here also, but not a smart city solution, because a smart city solution is dealing with people's culture, people's, the population density, the way we live, the things that are around us. So we have to re-innovate the concepts. We might be able to use the technology elements. We might be able to understand the components as it is, but the application of those systems in our environment requires quite a bit of research and understanding about how we can fit it into our context. So there are quite a lot of opportunities for startup companies to brainstorm, to come up with innovative ideas and contribute to this journey, and make use of the opportunities that are there in these sectors. So I have just mentioned a few. There are more sectors. For example, uh, toys. It sounds very simple. Electronic toys. When did you last see an electronic toy that was made in India? I can't even remember that. No, everything is made in China only. So even if we start producing toys, quality electronic toys in India, that itself is an achievement. So I mean, there are so many opportunities. What I'm trying to put across is that opportunities are plenty. There should be people who will be looking forward to and making use of those opportunities. So I just mentioned a few sectors so that you will be able to think about it, and you can keep an eye on it. Keep reading. Look at the newspapers. Look at the tech magazines like EFI and all that, where Sagar also writes once in a while. And be connected with the environment and start keep thinking about potential opportunities that we can see, which can be done and which can be commercialized. Okay, so before we conclude, I just want to quickly take you through the facilities that we offer in Incubation Center IIT Patna. So we support the companies with offices. They need a place to sit and work. So we give them offices. This is not necessarily the office that you will get, because we have shared space also. But one of our typical offices looks like this. And we give them, desks, chairs, PCs, internet connection, and all those kinds of things, conference room facilities, pantry access, etc., etc. And then we have state-of-the-art laboratories for people who are working on the hardware systems. So for any hardware, PCB is the heart of it. So you need to do the simulation. You need to do the layout design. You have to do the drilling. And if you need to, if it is a multi-layer board, then you might need a through-hole connectivity. Then you have to create the tracks by milling process. Then you pick and place, do the lithography, and then you do the solder pasting, pick and place, baking. So basically, end-to-end process for fabricating PCB can be done in our labs. So we have created beautiful set of equipments which are quite functional, which can be used to prototype your PCBs here. So most of the companies are able to prototype their printed circuit boards in our laboratory. In very rare cases, only they have to go outside when the precision requirements are extremely high, or when there are some requirements which are too complex, which may not be resolved here. Then only they have to go outside. 90% of the cases, they will be able to manage all their work in our PCB fabrication facility. So there is a facility for rework also. And there is a design lab where you have basic boards and basic components by which you can do the initial prototyping, early prototyping, board-based, pre-programmable board-based prototyping, which you will then subsequently convert into a PCB and put it into the product. So you start from here, you do this, and then you come to the PCB fabrication lab, where you do the milling, drilling, and all those kinds of things. These are some pictures. What you see on the screen are some pictures of people working in that lab. It's a significantly good lab, I would say. End-to-end facility. You can do the whole PCB work in this lab. And then there is a testing and calibration lab also. So once you make your PCBs, you will have to characterize it, you'll have to test it, you have to do physical inspection, you have to do other kind of tests on it, so that it's working. properly. So there is a testing and calibration lab also. So there are different types of equipments in our testing lab, like normal MSOs, DSOs, um, logic analyzers, RSAs, pattern generators. So different types of test equipments which you can use to characterize your PCB. Then we have a mechanical packaging and product prototyping lab. So as I said, the PCB doesn't make a product. It has to be enclosed properly in a package with user friendliness as one of the major concerns. So you need to prototype. You'll have to iterate what kind of enclosures will be useful. There may be some products which can be put into standard boxes, but some products require specific product design. So you design it and then you do a rapid prototyping using 3D printing, which will help you see the basic design in physical form in a couple of hours. So we have 3-4 3D printing machines. This is one of the machines. It's actually a smaller machine. We have 3-4 3D printing machines, and we are also in the process of preparing a larger 3D printing machines, which can create larger samples or multiple pieces at the same time, which will increase the speed of the whole process. So in addition to the lab facilities, we have the facility for seed funding of 10 lakh rupees. So this is provided by Government of Bihar and subject to the committee's valuation and the requirements that you have, we will be able to support you with the seed funding also. And we have experts mentoring the companies. So on an ongoing basis, I also mentor the companies, but we have many people from outside who are very, very skilled in their area. So they come and they spend some time with the companies. We try to put them in touch with the mentors frequently. So we have people like Dr. Prashant Jha, who was the Fellowship Director of Medical Devices Innovation Program in AIMS Delhi earlier. Now he has left AIMS. He is in a different organization. But he is one of the major supporters of us when it comes to medical devices. So he comes and works with those companies. He gives us inputs. We also are tied up with the AIMS Patna, and the doctors from AIMS Patna also help our companies to optimize their products, and they also support the companies with the testing and other information. And we have Indian Angel Network as part of our network. So they also come and mentor companies with respect to investment, and they present some of the companies in front of their investors also to facilitate investments. We have a couple of CEOs like Ravi and Balaji. They are running hardware-based companies, both electronic systems as well as medical devices. So they give their inputs, from a administration point of view, from a sales point of view, from a market point of view. So they have lots of inputs to give to our company. So once in a while, these people also interact with the companies and give their inputs. So we have, I have not mentioned the IIT professors because you can go to our website and see everybody's profile. Most of them are working with us in one form or the other. So around 20 of them have had a formal arrangement with us to support companies if they need it. So we have quite a large number of good mentors who can support the companies when it is needed. We also provide some access to outsourced services like legal firms and marketing firms and all that. We can put you in touch with those people if you need such services. Uh, so we are open for admissions throughout the year. You can give an application to us through our email ID, which is there in the website, or you can just put put a uh, put an email to my email ID, which is manager_ic@iitp.ac.in. And anybody from any part of the country can apply. They need to be an Indian citizen. Otherwise, there is no other restriction. Students, faculty members, innovators, employees, they can all try. And once they are selected, they have to form a private limited company and pursue this in a more serious way. So that is what I have to say. Mostly, we look at at companies who are in product development stage or in early stage also of market launches, so that we can help them. We can also work with other companies if there is a specific need and requirement. But in general, our focus is to work with people who are there from idea stage, early prototyping stage to early scaling stage. That is where we usually work with them. So our funds are mostly from Government of Bihar, the seed funds, and we are also trying to bring in a few newer projects with industry collaboration, etc. So which might result in some of the additional funds in the future. But at this time, this is what we are currently doing, and we are collaborating with ecosystem partners, different type of ecosystem partners, and we can put you in touch with the state government, the central government, things like that. So um, so that is what I have to say. With that, I would like to conclude. There is 10 more minutes left in our
Right.
time. If
Okay.
there are questions, I can answer some
Right, sir.
questions.
Right, sir. You are able to see the questions in question answer box, so you can answer them.
Yeah. So is okay. I can see some questions. So what is prototyping? There is one question about what is prototyping, and there has been an answer also. Huh. Okay. So there is a second question about IoT device used for early flood warning systems in India. Suggest tech magazines. 3 questions I can see. So regarding prototyping, the prototyping that I referred to was mostly with respect to iterations. I'll give you an example. We have an idea, and we want to that idea cannot be converted into a product in one day. Okay, because we fully don't, the idea doesn't have a shape. Idea is an amoeba, basically. It doesn't have any shape. Today we have one idea, and tomorrow morning we think about the same idea. We will have, some more features will come into our mind, and after a week, 50% of the idea would have gone out and another 50% has come in. So idea doesn't have a lot of shape. It is a slightly fluid thing. So when we start working with an idea, we need to start identifying, or we need to start firming it up. So how do we firm it up, especially when we don't know certain things about it? So to firm it up, we have to go through certain iterations or stages. So I would say the first iteration is an exploration. You read about it, you try to draw some diagrams on a piece of paper. You don't spend any money, you spend your time, you think, and you try to work out a list of features. You try to generally identify what could be the technologies that I can use in this, and you will generally identify what kind of components I'll need to implement those technologies. So you start thinking like this. Now, once you have a basic understanding, then you go into a POC stage, a proof of concept stage. So in the proof of concept, what you do is that you pick out the most critical aspects of your proposed solution or a product, and you try to figure out how it should work and whether it will work or not as you assumed. So you try to test your own assumptions about your idea and the proposed solution by picking out the most critical elements of that. So that is POC. POC is to be done at a lower cost, in a shorter span of time, and at a very rapid pace, because you might need to do multiple POCs. You tried doing it in one way, it is not working, so you will try doing it in another way. So that process goes for a little bit of time. Then you come to a stage where you know that, okay, these are the critical components, this will work, this is how it can be made to work. So that will give you some information about the cost factors, the difficulty in making it, etc., etc. also. And then you come to a product prototyping stage, where you will start putting together the different aspects of the product together. So you will start thinking about, what is the shape of this, what is the size of this, how many features out of the 10 or 15, yeah, 20 different features I thought about my initial idea. How many features should actually go in? Is it practical or feasible for me to do all the features together, or shall I put them in phases? If I have to put them in phases, at what sequence shall I proceed? And I made some assumptions about the hardwares, and with my POC I have used some assumptions, but will those assumptions work in a product? Can they stand the requirements of a product? So you start thinking about the product, and then you create an early prototype. You make your own assumptions, and then you put together the systems, and you try to create a completely working early model. And then you look at that early model, you will realize that there has been a lot of issues. Some of the things are not working as you expected. So you will not come to know until you do it most of the time. 80% of the things you can read, but 20% will still remain, which you will need to understand only when you do. So you do this once, then you get a lot of information. You will get test results of that. Then you try to incorporate those modifications and create another iteration. So you create another prototype, and then you realize that the product was too big in size. So you have to reduce the size of the PCB. If you have to reduce the size of the PCB, the components that you originally planned are not suitable. So you have to find out another set of components. When you find out another set of components, you will realize that the cost is going too high. So you have to think how you should optimize the cost. So it is a cyclical activity. So you have to do it over and over again. So maybe after 3, 4 iterations, depending upon the complexity of the work that you're doing, you will come to a stage where you have sorted out most of the critical issues. You would have created a trade-off between what should be included and what should not be included. You would have created a trade-off between product quality and product features versus the price. So there are things like this. So this is the prototyping cycles that you're going to go through, and at the end of it, you will come to a stage where you would have finalized that this is my product, this is how I will make it, and then you will proceed to create a production optimized design and then get it to production. So that is the prototyping that I was trying to talk about. Then okay, so is there any IoT device used for early warning systems in India? I'm not aware of those systems. There will be some systems. I'm not really aware of it. So I'm sorry, I cannot answer. We will have to do more research to find that out. There is another question that I can see. Sir, after 4 to 5 years, which main sub-branches of electronics or CS would be in core demand as considering the current scenario? A good question. IoT is definitely very important. Cyber physical systems, cyber security, identification, presence management, productivity tools, all these things will be in high demand. So we have to look at it. Healthcare definitely. I have actually mentioned the sectors earlier. So whatever is applicable to those sectors, primarily focused on automation and connectivity. Those branches will be, those areas of electronics will be in huge demand, is what I presume at this time. So there is a question on Industry 4 revolution. What is the major opportunities of new entrepreneurs in this area to start your own startups? Yeah, I mean, there are Industry 4 is still an evolving thing in India. So there are many different applications. There are I have already mentioned a couple of them. One is connected machines. How the machines can communicate with each other. Protocols, technology, equipments which will be able to do it. How factories can be monitored. That is another thing. Health of the machines, whether the machine can tell themselves whether their health is good or not, whether they need maintenance or not, whether they are creating defects or not. So self-diagnosis, self-maintenance, maintenance alarms and warning, predictive management, process optimization, inventory. So lot of opportunities. So people should look at the gaps in the existing system and try to redefine in such a way that it will become very much appealing to the industries. For example, one of our companies here, he started with a simple IoT system for garbage collection and management. Uh, Subsequently, he worked with some industrial clients, and then he came to understand that they have larger needs. So he went into a solution space which will help the managers, facility managers of large industrial houses to monitor their distributed facilities centrally. So he created a solution for that. It is basically an IoT solution, IoT-based solution, but industrial monitoring solution. He immediately found a client, and he was struggling to sell small projects of 5 lakhs and 10 lakh rupees to his clients. And all of a sudden, this became a 2 to 3 crore project for him. So I hope I answered to some extent that question.
Okay, Joseph sir.
Yes.
Joseph sir.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. I'm Dr. Samajan from Purnima Institute of Engineering and Technology.
Yes.
I am leading department of first year. So, especially first of all, I want to express sincere thanks to Joseph Paul sir for giving valuable suggestions and valuable input to all our participants. So, thank you, Joseph sir. But especially for you, I have one question. So I suppose that you can light your opinion on my question. So can I put my question, Joseph sir?
Oh, definitely, ma'am. Definitely, please.
Yeah. So my question is, Joseph sir, how our institutes, how our students can get some benefit from your incubation center, that is situated in IIT Patna.
Right.
And I especially wants to tell you that we have also incubation center, and our students are working on this platform from beginning, from first year onwards. So
Okay.
if they want to explore some idea, and if they want to get benefited from IIT Patna center, so what may be the probability for that?
Ma'am, there are multiple things that we can do together. One is that, definitely if somebody wants, somebody is working on a product and device, they are in your incubation center. They have done with that incubation center, and they need to go to a slightly better facility, or a facility with additional funding opportunity or some additional support systems. They can definitely come to us. So we will be more than happy to consider them, and then try to support them also. That is one way of doing it. It is the normal method. It is open to everybody, but definitely if somebody is already working in this field, that becomes a natural synergy for us. Second is that we also conduct training programs, which is specifically focused on entrepreneurship in electronic systems. So we have two training programs which we usually offer to people. One is not two, three training programs. One is on entrepreneurship development, which is purely focused on how to go about starting a business. So we teach them how to think about an idea and then develop a business plan of it. Second program is technical program. We call it as a product development workshop, because a lot of people get stuck to the technology. They don't think about the product. So we try to open their minds to what a product is, how to go about it, what are the basic components behind it, how to approach a product development. We call it as a product development workshop. So we conduct these two programs regularly for whoever needs it. And we will be teaching them on how to go about this. There is a third program which is called Windows School in Health Technology Innovation, which is specifically focused on healthcare devices. And we have very good faculty coming and teaching and spending a week with people. It usually happens in winter. where we specifically talk about health technology related challenges and how to go about it. So these are training programs which we can offer. And then we also do entrepreneurship seminars. So if you need, we can come there and we can interact with the students, spend a day with them, try to give them one-to-one mentoring or counseling or anything like that. So that also can be done. And the other opportunities we can explore, in the sense there can be a formal partnership where we work together in some form. So that also can be explored. That is not a problem.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. You have given lots of input for our students, and definitely in future we will try to contact you again. Uh, so thank you very much, sir.